Welcome back to Light the Fuse, what we thought was the only Mission Impossible podcast on the internet, but what we recently found out was actually not, because there is another Mission Impossible podcast called the Impossible Minute?
Minute Impossible.
Minute Impossible. And they do a minute-by-minute breakdown of each movie in the franchise, right?
Yes, and hello.
And hello, and Charles is here.
Hi.
But they're not currently on air, so we are still the only continuous Mission Impossible podcast. Right?
Yeah, I think they've done they're doing a minute. Each episode breaks down a minute of each movie, and they've only done the first movie. And I haven't listened to their podcast. I've only listened to a few episodes, but I think they're probably going to tackle the next movie maybe next year.
Okay.
But they've only done one movie, so I think they will be continuing at some point. But right now, we're the only podcast.
Yeah. So I was right the whole time because we really didn't. Well, we did overlap a little bit, but right now we are the only Mission Impossible podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they finished right as we were starting.
Okay.
But they did one episode about Fallout.
Right.
But we do all kinds of episodes about Fallout.
Yeah, I mean today's episode is all about the Fallout home video release. So we're just gonna get into the special features, what this release has to offer, and then we're gonna continue this next week, and for a few weeks we go out to interviews with Eddie Hamilton, who edited the movie and is the coolest dude around.
Yes, he was so great. It was such a fun interview.
And I'm going to be participating in a crazy home video promotional stunt this week.
You're going to be flying a helicopter?
I'm going to be flying a helicopter, and I'm going to be driving in one of the BMWs from the movie. So
yeah, that's so awesome. And fingers crossed, if it works out, hopefully we'll have a very special guest in a couple weeks.
Hopefully,
see.
if he returns our emails.
So we'll,
yeah. And we're also going to be talking to the guys who did the title sequences for both Rogue Nation and Fallout.
Yes, Eddie Hamilton hooked us up with the guys who did those title sequences. We're very excited to talk with them as well. We got all kinds of great episodes coming up. But today, bonus episode all about the Blu-ray release and the home video release.
Yeah, so we're going to get into it. Charles and myself have spent the weekend watching basically all the special features on the Blu-ray release. Some of these features carry over to the digital releases, but what were you saying about that?
So it looks like iTunes is the best. If you're going to go digital for your purchase, iTunes looks like the best option because it has the commentaries. Vudu only has five of the featurettes. I'm a big fan of Vudu. You know, we like to use Vudu. It's a great digital locker system that you can share. I don't know if the sharing option's still available. Anyway, it doesn't have as many featurettes, so iTunes is better that way because it also has the commentaries, which are huge. There's 3 commentaries for this movie.
Yeah.
And I can't tell what Amazon has because they don't tell you what the features are unless I buy it, and I'm not going to buy it just to find out what the features are.
You're not?
So, well, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the digital release looks like iTunes is the way to go, but the Blu-ray looks like it's really the way to go because it is loaded. This Blu-ray is loaded with features.
Yeah, it's rare that you get a new movie these days that has a separate disc full of stuff, much less multiple commentary tracks.
Yeah.
And this has both. So let's get into it. Like, the main thing on the bonus disc is a documentary that's sort of broken up into different segments called Behind the Fallout. What's interesting is you get part of this on Vudu. You get some of
you get a few of these, but not all of them. Because they're all kind of individual little featurettes. They all end with this same weird logo. I don't know why it doesn't work as a continuous long feature called Behind the Fallout. Each one has to end and do a copyright thing and start over again. Yeah. If you play all, that's what happens. But it's not that big of it. It's just a couple seconds.
Yeah.
It's like
it does kind of
weird the silhouette of a man and a woman holding hands.
They seem to be nude. Yeah.
But anyway, forget that. The first segment is Light the Fuse, which I think is just a general...
Yeah.
I think from what I remember it's a good just behind the scenes, just showing you awesome behind the scenes footage of them shooting things. I think that was about the initiation of the project, probably, right?
And it has the great quote from Tom Cruise about being addicted to movies.
Yeah.
And which is referenced in the commentary track by McQuarrie, which we'll get to. But yeah. It's great. It gets you pumped to watch some behind the scenes footage, and the rest of it doesn't disappoint. So the next one is called Top of the World, and that's the Halo.
I think it's all about the Halo jump, which has a lot of great in-depth stuff about how they did the Halo jump. I think we'll save talking about all those technical things in case you want to watch it, or if you want to wait for our making of the Making of Fallout episode that we'll do.
What's interesting about these little segments is that Charles and I kept turning to each other and went, "Oh, I wish there was one on the bathroom scene," or "I wish there was one." You know, there's so many moments like that in this movie that you don't get everything, but you get a lot.
Yeah, there's so many, they're going to be, I think, iconic sequences.
Yeah.
And they just can't, they don't have enough making ofs
for
every single sequence, because there's so many great, memorable moments and sequences in this movie.
Yeah, so the next one after Top of the World is called The Big Swing, which is a deleted scene breakdown of a huge deleted scene.
Yeah.
Do you want to set up what this scene was?
So right after the halo jump, they landed on the roof of the Grand Palais.
Yeah.
And then they have to get down to the ground floor. And I don't know if you've heard McQuarrie talk about this before. It was a bunch of shoe leather that they realized that they didn't need, and they just cut it out of the movie.
I think one or two shots is in one of the trailers.
Yeah, where you see him swinging above all the people dancing inside the Grand Palais. And this just shows you a breakdown. It has a commentary with Eddie Hamilton, I think.
Yes,
but definitely McQuarrie.
Yeah. And
they're just talking about why they cut the scene. And
that's later in the deleted scene section.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but
there's so much stuff.
This is about just the making of this sequence, which was crazy.
Yes, yeah.
Because the Grand Palais, you can't drill things into it. I mean, it's a historical building, and they built this crazy thing. It's Tom on a wire, like it's crazy. There's some great moments from that scene too that you'll see in the deleted scenes montage. Like there's a great reaction shot from Henry Cavill, who's looking at Tom like he's crazy. When he's like kind of unscrewing this wire, but I mean they talk about it later that it was sort of designed and shot early in the movie where they didn't really know what the movie was, they didn't really know who the characters were, and I don't think it would have worked that. I mean, it's a cool as hell sequence, but I don't think it would have worked.
It's good that they cut it.
Yeah,
it was definitely right, but it's cool to see this other sequence that was kind of fun, and
yeah, the fact there's a making of featurette about a sequence that's not even in the movie shows you what a pain in the ass it was. And I think that's what you get again and again with these featurettes. It's just like what a massive undertaking this movie was in every respect.
Yeah, and they talk about, I think in the commentary too, about how Cavill, they figured out that character was Clark Gable. Mm-hmm. That's like that was the model for Walker, and they didn't realize that until later in the shoot. So a lot of those things they had to trim out
or reshoot.
Yeah. The next bit in this Behind the Fallout series of featurettes is Rendezvous in Paris, which is a breakdown of the big Paris motorcycle chase and car chase. I mean, it's just all the Paris crazy action scenes, which are awesome to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that was my
footage.
Some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I love the BMW chase is so wonderful that it's great to see that. Then there's also after that another featurette, The Fall, which is about the Tom Cruise falling from the helicopter
to the payload,
holding onto the payload, and just how much went into that and how scary it was, and that's a really really cool cool featurette. And then after that is The Hunt Is On, which I think was just about the helicopter chase in general and about Cruise piloting the helicopter and what that took and how much effort and time was put into Cruise being able to pilot this helicopter in a very dangerous situation.
He put in 1,500 hours, and they said it was the equivalent of 10,000 hours. Just the things that he had to do, and every time they would go from one location to another, he'd get in a helicopter and say, "Okay, I'm gonna pilot us back," which is fascinating.
I mean, Rogue Nation came out 3 years ago, and in that time, it's insane to me that because there was the amount of training he had to do for the helicopter, but there's also the amount of training he had to do for the halo jump, because there was they talk about in the halo jump featurette about how many hours it took for him daily. He was jumping all day doing these jumps with 2 different jumping crews
just to get certified
to do this halo jump. And then also having to get ready to do the helicopter. I mean, the amount of training, then not to mention also the motorcycle and the car driving. I mean, all the stuff that he had to do for this movie. It's insane to me that it came out this soon after Rogue Nation.
Yeah, I mean, we have trouble getting one podcast out a week. It's amazing how much stuff he was doing and shooting 18 hours a day or whatever it is. So that was really fascinating. And then the last part of the bigger feature, the little featurettes in the bigger feature, is the Cliffside Clash, which is about the fight on the side of the mountain in Norway between him and Cavill that finishes off the movie.
Yeah, and how much of a pain in the ass it was for them to
Yeah.
haul all their equipment to this little cliff in Norway to shoot this scene.
Could you believe that whole camp? That was, I mean, it's crazy.
And they said on the last day, crews got helicoptered out of there, and a lot of the crew had to hike their way back down before this snowstorm hit.
Yeah, and it is like a straight drop.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Cruz was saying, I think in the commentary, I feel terrible. I couldn't hike, but it was my broken ankle. You know, he couldn't hike because they jumped into shooting that stuff. That was the first stuff they shot when he came back from the broken ankle. Was him hanging off the cliff and climbing the cliff with a broken ankle.
Yeah, so when you see that shot of him on the side of the mountain, he's putting pressure on that leg in an unbelievable way.
Gosh.
Yeah. So
that's the end of Behind the Fallout, which is the series of featurettes.
Yeah.
After that, there's the deleted scenes montage, which McQuarrie's been talking about now for a while in the build-up to this release. There's an optional commentary where McQuarrie and editor Eddie Hamilton talk over the sequence. Mm-hmm. The big thing about this deleted scenes montage that we were intrigued by, to say the least, was that the shot from the trailer where the helicopter's heading for the truck with Tom Cruise, it's not in the deleted scenes montage.
Not there, no.
So the only way you can see that is in the trailer is on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And you can watch
only
it in the trailer.
Only the first trailer, but not the second one.
But that has the helicopter shot, right? It's the helicopter in the truck. So I thought we were going to get more of that sequence.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if maybe the sequence didn't work. There was something else wrong with it, or
I
maybe
don't know.
too much CGI that they weren't comfortable, but why wouldn't they at least even put that one shot? That shot is so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. There are some intriguing bits in the deleted scenes, though, including a shot where Ethan and Ilsa run into each other in the club before the bathroom sequence.
Yeah, so Ilsa has a different introduction.
Yeah. It doesn't work as well, I don't think.
It's quick. I don't even think they exchange any dialogue. It's just a look.
Well, the thing
we
should say the thing about this montage is there's no dialogue.
Yeah, it's just cut to music.
So some of the scenes are probably like different stagings of scenes that are actually in the movie, but we couldn't really tell because you couldn't hear the dialogue.
Yeah. And they talk about it during the commentary. I think it's hard for them to keep up with all the scenes.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. It's a montage. But you see another scene that was, where the White Widow had her hideout, where they talk about the plan to break out Solomon Lane. They had a whole different... They used that set for a different reason. Mm-hmm. It was Luther and Benji and Walker and Ethan going through their plan.
Yeah.
And then they just repurposed that set, cut that scene, and then used that set for the White Widow hideout, which was interesting.
Yeah, it's unclear before what section of the movie that was supposed to be, but it's Benji behind a computer and Luther's fiddling with something, and the typical sort of setup of a pre-mission thing. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else from that montage that stuck out. We should also say that on the actual feature, it does widen to the correct IMAX aspect ratio.
Yes, the Blu-ray preserves the IMAX sequences so that it does sort of it expands during the Halo scene and expands when he goes onto the helicopter initially, and then all those aspect ratio
they're maintained.
They're maintained, unlike Ghost Protocol, which did not maintain the IMAX stuff.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
And then there's a Foot Chase musical breakdown by our, really, I think, like, sort of the third host of this podcast, Lauren Balfe, who breaks down the Foot Chase in London.
And he breaks it down really like they isolate music tracks. Yeah. And he talks through the whole sequence, talking about the different instruments and for different sections of this sequence.
It's great. And it also, we can jump from there to the fact that there's an isolated music track with just his score, and then there is a commentary track with Lauren, with him talking over the whole movie with dialogue, but really gets into the nitty-gritty of how he did the music and how he put it together. And there are things that we did not notice that seeing in the musical breakdown really illuminated for us, which was great. Yeah.
And he talks in the commentary about when to use music and when to back off, and when to let the comedy be there and not step on the comedy, and it's interesting stuff to listen to.
Yeah, he said a thing about bongos being the only musical instrument that can cut through gunfire, which was interesting.
Yeah, because he said it's hard to score. You got to think about the sound effects when you're scoring.
Yeah,
which is true.
But back to the bonus disc. The Ultimate Mission is sort of just an EPK kind of. It was online during the movie's theatrical run, so chances are you've seen it if you're listening to this podcast.
But it's still a great little.
It's still great. It'll get you pumped. And then going back to the main disc, there's a commercial for the Blu-ray box set, which Charles was very excited.
Yes,
about.
this is one of my maybe my favorite feature, which I think I'm a crazy person, but. There's a trailer for the Blu-ray set for like the 6-disc Blu-ray set of all the movies, and it's just a combination of clips from the whole series, and it's set to Elfman's version of the Mission Impossible theme. So when I first came over, you got the advanced Blu-ray copy, and you popped it in, and you were like, you got to check out this this little trailer. Just check this out, and I just was like, yes! I was so excited. Because it's my favorite Elfman's score, and just clips from all the movies, and it just, I don't know, I thought that was great. It's not even really a feature. You just have to make sure you pay attention when you pop the disc in, and then you'll see that.
Yeah, don't make yourself a sandwich after you put it in.
I want to find that online, actually.
Yeah, and we see Ethan saying "Light the Fuse," which obviously big thrill for us always when we see that.
Oh yeah, that's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Him saying "Light the Fuse."
Yeah. So the big things on the first disc are, besides every conceivable audio configuration that is available on the home market, there are two commentaries with Christopher McQuarrie, one with Tom Cruise and the other with Eddie Hamilton, and we listened to both and we loved both. There's a different tenor to each one.
Yeah, Cruise is so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
He says fantastic a lot.
He says fantastic.
But it's infectious. It's he's excited, and so are we to watch these movies.
Yeah, it's great. That one is a little bit less technical, but you also get into the nitty-gritty of like what was going on in his head when he was jumping out of an airplane and he never complains about anything. Like he's never like, oh, it was cold as shit when we were in Norway or anything. It was just
he'll say it matter-of-factly that it was very cold.
It was very cold.
He's very grateful for everybody who works on the movie.
Yeah.
He's...
It's just amazing that he maintains that level of enthusiasm, not only through the whole, what we found out was a 12-month shoot on and off, but also the 6th movie. It's just crazy. Yeah. But I mean, that's what makes him Tom Cruise.
Yeah. And the other commentary track is, did you say this already, McQuarrie with editor Eddie Hamilton?
We said that, but we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, and that was a good commentary too.
Yeah.
It's more technical. They talk about little bits that they cut here and there, and there's a little interesting bit in the Eddie Hamilton one where they said at the beginning they did fast versions of the studio logos.
Oh yeah,
which I didn't really notice, but when you watch it, they're like a little sped up, and some of them are even cut out a little bit. So the studio, because they said the movie was so long and they just wanted to get right into it, that they got permission to cut the studio logos shorter.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because if you'll notice on the Bad Robot one, the robot doesn't run around in the background as much as he used to.
Yeah.
And then obviously we already talked about this, but Lauren has a commentary that's great, and then there's an isolated track. So all of that stuff is on the first disc.
Yeah. But before we move on, I want to talk about little tidbits from the Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie commentary. Some really cool stuff in here. Cruise and McQuarrie talk about how they've worked on all these movies, 9 movies in the last 10 or 12 years, and then Cruise says, you came on to Ghost Protocol and, quote, saved my bacon.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. They talk, we've heard about how McQuarrie has come in there, but it was interesting to hear Tom Cruise say it directly from his lips, saying that you came and saved my bacon on Ghost Protocol. Because that movie was, the franchise has taken off since Ghost Protocol.
Yes.
But Ghost Protocol was not a sure bet.
No, and what I'm thinking
McQuarrie
is,
came in and saved their asses.
Well, what do you think? Do you think it was that he literally reinserted Tom into the rest of the movie?
Oh,
because I had heard from somebody that he was literally the Josh Holloway character at the beginning of the movie,
right?
Dead before the credits start.
I don't know, because it seems like McQuarrie came in pretty late in the process.
Well, if you look at the first trailer for Ghost Protocol, he's a credited writer. He's the third writer, right? With Andre and Josh. So yeah.
I was just watching, I don't know if it was on this featurette or somewhere else. There's that little part in Ghost Protocol where Jeremy Renner is running, they're trying to get on the train. Yeah. And Renner's like, why would that work? About the whole thing throwing the body underwater, and Cruise is like, what? There's a little weird bit of mentor play in there that I was just thinking about, that's a little bit along the track of Cruise training Renner to take over. which obviously didn't happen.
Yeah.
But you wonder if that was a leftover remnant from an earlier version of the movie they were making or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know when he came on what his main objective was when coming on, where Lindelof figured into that whole situation. But yeah, that was a really interesting thing.
Yeah, we have plenty of people we're going to be interviewing in the future to find out, to get down to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
So there are other stuff from that Tom Cruise commentary that I wanted to mention quickly.
Right.
I've brought up the shot of the moon and the airplane when they're right before the halo jump and the plane and the air. I thought it was this beautiful shot. You find out from McQuarrie it was entirely CGI. They just manufactured that shot. It was done by a company called DNA. So that was interesting because I was wondering if it was some kind of crazy long lens, but it's just completely fake. Yeah, but it looks great.
And he said that when they gave it to him, it was too perfect initially.
Yeah.
So he said, "Okay, well, you gave me the shot that I'm dreaming of, but what is the shot that I could get?" So the moon's a little off center, the plane's a little off center. There's that heat distortion, which was really cool to hear. Yeah,
it's like the way to do a good CGI shot.
Yeah,
is to mess it up and make it not perfect.
Well, that's what Guillermo always says, that CGI is a lie, and that if you just told your boss that you were late because your car broke down, he wouldn't believe you. But if you told him that your car broke down and it was raining and there was a 18-wheeler that almost hit you, then the lie becomes real. Right. So that's sort of the same kind of philosophy.
That's Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, the man.
So another thing that I loved this bit. When Walker is talking to Angela Bassett by the Eiffel Tower, and Cruise and McQuarrie said this. Walker explaining about Hunt going rogue and turning his back on his country. He's lying, all this stuff about Hunt. This is the only insight you get into Walker and what Walker's motivation is on turning his back on the country, because obviously he turns out to be the villain. Spoiler alert. So Cruise says they discussed. While they were making this scene, or while they were creating this scene, Cruise says they discussed how it kind of goes back to the first movie. It's kind of a callback to the first movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so cool that they're thinking about the original movie and how this is sort of like Jim Phelps and what happened with him in the first movie.
Yeah, and how he explained to Cruise his version of events while Cruise is piecing together what.
Right.
Actually,
because Angela Bassett, in the end, is a step ahead of Walker and knows that. That there's it's a cool layer. They're doing a little callback to the first movie. It's cool. Another thing that was interesting: Wes Bentley and Michelle Monaghan originally had a baby in the climax of the movie.
Yeah,
they said that
they cast
a baby, and then days before they shot it, they decided to cut the baby. That was crazy to hear.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about was the BMW. They talk about the BMW during the chase. Obviously, I know I've talked about this on the show. It's a 1986 BMW, like the one that my dad owned that I drove one day to a high school. I was in marching band, very dorky. I was picking up my friend, got into a car accident, was hit by a van that was going probably 50 miles an hour right on the driver's side, and survived and did not have a scratch on me because of this tank of a 1986 BMW. And in the features, they talk about how, I think it's Wade Eastwood, maybe, the stunt coordinator or somebody involved with the stunts, said, We drove this car like through things all around. It was indestructible. Yeah. I can tell you that it is indestructible because it saved my life.
Well, and also because it had a huge engine and a huge windshield.
Yes, that was in the commentary. McQuarrie says he wanted the biggest possible engine with the biggest possible windshield so that you can really see out while you're driving to make it safe. And they were trying to push, I think the studio, or maybe probably BMW, was pushing, well, do you want to use a newer BMW? And they're like, no, we want to use this one. And they liked this color green. And they said, it's like your father's BMW, which...
It was.
It was my father's BMW. Yeah. But I destroyed it.
You did what Tom Cruise couldn't, which is amazing, yeah.
I wonder if I have a picture of it somewhere. It's just like, it was just...
bashed up.
Yeah.
That was right before we met, so I'm glad. I mean, if had things gone wrong...
You'd be doing this podcast by yourself.
Yes.
Another thing, too, they talked about while they were shooting the New Zealand sequences, the whole climax and everything, they said that while they were leaving there, they would take off from Lake Wanaka, which is the lake that's referenced where they met.
Yeah.
Where Julia and Ethan met in MI3. They reference it, and it comes back in the climax of MI3 is the reason he knows that it's actually her. Yeah. Because she mentions Lake Wanaka. So they say that they were actually taking off from Lake Wanaka while they were there shooting, and they thought that was this great omen. But he's still, in all these commentaries and everything, you've brought up that great question in that dream sequence in the opening scene, the wedding, is that supposed to be Lake Wanaka? he still doesn't say whether or not that's Wanaka. So when we talk to McQuarrie, we're going to push him on that.
Yeah, we're really going to. If that's the only question we get in, that'll be fine with us. But yeah, both commentaries, all 3 commentaries are great, I should say. There are a couple of different variations of this Blu-ray release that you can get on December 4th, including a Blu-ray Steelbook edition from Best Buy.
They'll do like different. It's a kind of different cover art, right? That's basically what it is.
and this is using the
is it like a silhouette cruise?
Yeah,
is that what
it's the teaser poster, I think.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, which I think is also the 4K cover.
Right. So if you want to get that at Best Buy.
Get it.
From what we can tell, I don't see other special features on it. We haven't found out yet if that's going to be different. And also Target sometimes has an exclusive, but we haven't heard if they're going to have one. I know for Rogue Nation, I think Target had a bonus disc.
Yeah.
And for Ghost Protocol, Best Buy had a bonus disc, which you have that version.
I have that version, so we're going to go through that for our making of Ghost Protocol.
Right, yeah.
But that was cool because it was a limited, like, day-long promotion where you had to go out and get it. The deal self-destructed in 24 hours. You had to go out on the first day and get it, which was kind of fun. But
one other thing.
Yeah.
I almost forgot.
Yeah, what?
Remember Patrick came on the show. Patrick Willems came on the show for a couple episodes and talked about how Tom Cruise maybe has never seen a movie.
Yeah.
So in the special features, McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, they talk about this French movie from 1976 called Rendezvous, which is I think it's an 8-minute short that you can find online.
We'll put it on Twitter.
And it's a one unbroken take. It's just one shot of like kind of a POV bumper view driving through Paris, not stopping for red lights or anything, and driving to meet somebody. It's just this.
Yeah, it's
just a driving kind of almost an experimental movie, I guess. But it's a really cool view going through Paris. And they said that Cruise says that they loved Rendezvous and they were inspired by that while they were doing their Paris chase.
Yeah.
Which I think was cool to hear about.
It looks like it also inspired Ronin and other things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You can feel that Ronin, that bumper view.
Yeah.
Driving fast.
So we'll have more from the Blu-ray just in our making of episode, and also we're going to be talking about the Blu-ray release for the next couple weeks in various forms. So this is not the last of the home video release that you're going to get from us, but we just thought we'd run down the special features for you guys, and we'll be back very soon. So for Charles, this is Drew.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.